everyone has weaknesses, right? But it's looking at what you can deliver and your strengths. And if your strengths outshine your weaknesses, people would want to have you.
How you inspire other people to take action, that's powerful. Things are going to get so much better to how it was 5-10 years ago. And that little girl in me is just like, yeah, you can do this.
I think you just gave us our teaser for the intro to this
Exactly.
100%. There's nothing that's been said that's going to top that.
That's brilliant. That's pure gold.
That was. Drop the mic at that point. Yeah.
Hello and welcome to Diversifying Data. I'm Charlotte Clark.
And I'm Raki Sharma.
And today we are here with Kubrick alumni Amanda Arthur and
current Kubrick consultant, cloud engineer extraordinaire, Shijo Varghese.
welcome, guys.
Great to be here.
Thank you so much for coming on the inaugural episode of the podcast.
Thanks for having us.
Yeah, we're very excited, and you two are going to make this amazing. We already know.
That's a lot of pressure.
I was going to be like, right.
So it'd be great to kind of get a little bit of, we obviously know because we chat to you all the time, but for our audience, we'd love to understand a bit about your current jobs, where you're working, job titles, and that sort of area.
Yeah, cool. I can talk a little bit about where I currently work. Basically, I work with a team of engineers that deal with, it's a project called Single Customer View. Sounds fancy. All it is basically we update customer like marketing preferences and consent management, that side of things. But also we have this cool app that, so if you've got different accounts, they bring all of that together so that you don't get like 100 emails go through.
Right? Appreciate your work.
We needed that.
That is my team, people. So if it goes wrong, it is not my fault.
Yeah. You've just outed yourself completely.
I'm just the DevOps engineer in that team.
Yeah.
Shijo?
So I'm a cloud engineer. I'm currently working at an asset management company. I'm helping them migrate to the cloud, so moving from an on-prem database into a Azure SQL server. Yeah.
Amazing. How long have you been there? Remind me.
Oh, I'm very new. It's a month into my job.
Oh, this is so exciting. So you're right at the beginning, and whereas Amanda, you're sort of
Pretty much at the end.
Yeah,
Exactly.
very,
It's a
very.
very big
I mean,
contract.
that's as diverse as it gets in terms of your experiences. If we're going to dive in,
Yeah.
So I was going to say, in terms of personally your journeys, now we know exactly what you're doing. But how did you get to this point? How did data become the focus of both of your careers? I'm really interested to hear from both of you.
Yeah, I can go first. So I was in the University of Bath, and we do a placement year in Bath. So I originally did accounting and finance, and I went into Dyson, which was a technology company.
Yeah.
I was really interested in their tech, and I went into the tech company. And I really got interested into the data behind everything. So I was working with a bunch of data scientists there. I really liked the fact that we were working with data and we had like tangible results, and it really helped people out. So I really got into that side more than the finance side. And luckily enough, Dyson was such a great company that they let me like do kind of whatever I wanted. And that really got me started into like really looking into data. So when I went back to university, I was like, what am I going to do with my life? It's my final year. I need to get a job.
Yeah,
I need to do something.
like all of us, Shijo. Yeah.
And I was like, okay, what do I actually enjoy? Do I want to go into audit or finance? And I was like, I don't particularly enjoy audit. That seems really mind-numbingly dull. I'm sorry for people who do audit.
And that's when we announce our new audit stream.
Sponsored by auditors everywhere.
So then I wanted to do a data science master's. So I was like, I'll use that as a conversion spot. And I only happened to come across Kubrick. I was so lucky that one of my really good friends, he reached out to me and he was like, I did this like data engineering thing. I applied to it. I think it will be perfect for you. And I was a bit skeptical. I was like, okay, this seems weird. I'll rather just take a master's. Then he really pushed me into it. Then I looked into it and I was like, oh, the training seems really good. I got really interested into training. I was like, oh, this is by people who are experts in their field, and they'll teach you up for 3 months. And these are for beginners as well. And I was like, okay, this seems like something I would want to do. And honestly, I didn't apply for many other jobs. I just applied for this one, which is a big risk.
All your eggs in one basket.
Yeah,
And,
that's what
I
they tell you to do.
do not do that. I applied to a lot of jobs. So I was lucky enough to get through to Kubrick. I did apply to a few masters and I got accepted. And I was debating between this on masters, and I ended up going with this because I was like, I'll get client experience. And honestly, it was like really nice to be taught with a group of people together in a 3-month cohort. So I chose Kubrick and I loved it. Like, the training was amazing. I would recommend. I am one of the biggest fans of the Kubrick training. You form such great friendships and you learn so much as a result. And then they place you on a client. So it's their responsibility to get you placed, which is quite nice, as well as you being competent, I guess.
Yeah, definitely.
And I guess there's always that aspect too of like down in your journey when you do go perm somewhere, they have the space for you to be able to go do that master's when that time comes.
Yeah, definitely. I think I won't do a master's now, particularly, but like I think like learning from doing is what I
Hands-on education.
That's the one. That's the one. Yes, Marky.
Coined the phrase.
Let's go. Yeah. And Kubrick taught me that because like I like was so lost into a problem, and I just do it, and you learn a lot through doing rather than learning the theory, and I really enjoyed that. So yeah.
Brilliant.
What about you, Amanda?
Compared to what you just said, I mean, I think we have one thing in common, and I'll get to that. Most of my education and everything that I've done in those terms, work terms, I've just bumbled along. I did like a civil engineering degree purely because someone at school told me that girls don't do civil engineering, and I was like, well, I would like to see what happens.
So
Turns out it's no different.
Oh,
Nothing
so you've got that.
different.
Have you got that rebellious side to you that you want to prove a point and prove people wrong?
Maybe it's that, or maybe it's just like, well, why not? Like,
Yeah.
I just got very curious and just like, well, that's a weird thing. But yeah, I was rebellious before that. So it was cool. It was cool. And yeah, I did civil engineering, did a little bit of teaching and things like that. And then I was helping my partner at the time with his master's in computer science. And I just felt like I'd learned so much of it. I was like, I might as well take a master's in computer science too. So as I was doing that, there was just this one module. It was like 2 months or something. It was the data module there. Absolutely fell in love with it. And I think the real like clincher thing there was that our project was to do with like diversity and how like data, like historical data has biased like different things, and how like I guess mostly like banks and stuff like that can have like discriminatory data that is then used for like credit applications and stuff like that. And that got me hooked. And it was only 2 months, and I was like, I know, this is the first time in my life I've decided I've gone, that is my career. That I don't know what this thing is called data, but that's what I'm gonna do. And then I saw an ad for Kubrick, and it is also the only place I ever.
Do not do that. I'm telling you. Do not do that.
That's an
very risky.
incredible stroke of luck for both of you sitting here. That's incredible.
It is the only place I applied to because I was just like, I don't know what it was. I think it was most the fact that like they'll take care of everything for me. I can be a little bit kind of laid back / lazy, despite the generally quite high strung, anxious person. And it was the fact that they will train me for 4 months, and it was an intense course. I like that kind of structure. I know that once I eat this cake, I will know everything to do with this. You know, everything to do with data. Or at least that was what's in my head. Everything else is up to me. They've equipped me with the skills that I need, kind of thing. You know what I mean? Loved that, and loved that they pay me quite well. Am I allowed to say? But I compare it as a well-paid thing to do. And even before the interview, because I'd applied like 2 or 3 months before graduating, I was just like, yeah, if I get it, brilliant. If not, I just enjoyed every moment of the interview. It was like going to a theme park for me.
Oh, wow. I've never heard any interview being described as going to a theme park. Do you mind elaborating slightly on that?
I
Thank
just
you.
had so much fun.
Like a roller coaster.
I know, it was. I mean, this is where I get like very nerdy / dorky because like you had to like, I don't know if it's the same nowadays, but like we had to record ourselves like answering a couple of questions and stuff. And I just loved like answering those questions, pretending like I'm like a newscaster or something. Yeah. I was having like a
set
brilliant
the scene behind you.
Exactly. So basically, we had to convince the interviewer and the other people that I was interviewing dictatorship is a good thing.
I loved these questions. I had one of the questions as
So
well.
good.
It's so good. I
So
loved
good.
it.
And the thing is, there was something else about like the government and NHS
Yeah.
and stuff like that. So I made like a little twist and I tricked people into agreeing with me that dictatorship is great. And I was just like, and at the end of it was, I think the last 15 minutes was when I was like, oh, I really want this job.
That's amazing though that you both have had that same excitement rather than thinking, oh God, that is a lot. That is very, very full on for a full day of just talking. What about that excites you? Do you like telling the story? Do you like convincing people in an argument? What about that side of it speaks to both of you?
I think it's like you can't not be yourself in that situation, right?
Right.
Like if you're awkward about it, it's going to come through. And what you see in the interviewer is that they're not necessarily judging who you are. They're just accepting how you come across and whether that's acceptable to a client.
Yeah.
And a lot of the time you don't have to be this cookie cutter person.
Yeah. No, I found the same as well. I tried to be unadulteratedly myself.
Yeah.
And like, if someone accepts me within an interview, like, and me being myself, I feel like that's it. I can work at that place. I can be myself. I can be like, on the good days, on the bad days, I can be there. And I would really like to work in a place that would accept me for who I am.
Yeah.
And I would try to use that in the interviews. But for the Kubrick interview, I really liked the question they gave me. It got me to think as well. Mine was like, would video games give you the skill that you need in real life jobs? And I researched that for like 2-3 days.
That's an
Like,
incredible.
I really liked that question. I did like so much like preparation for it, and it was only 5 minutes in the end, but my like speech was like 15 minutes long.
Like you committed to this.
I committed. Yeah.
That's fascinating. So you both mentioned a couple of things, in particular that you felt that you were quite accepted at Kubrick and that you could be yourself. Have you noticed that being that you're both career changers in other organisations, or is that something that really drew you to Kubrick?
I think my organisation have been really accepting of me. I think it's been really nice to be involved in that, and they really try to make you feel like one of their own. So I've been through the socials with them. They've been really good to me. Like, I disclosed that I had dyslexia, and they've really opened up and like accepted me and like given me all the resources that I need, which is really good. Yeah.
And do you feel like that's that sort of conversation where you feel quite open to talk about it? Do you think that you're somewhat of not a special case, but in terms of, do you feel comfortable vocalizing it, or do you see that happening a lot across the board?
I think it's a bit of both. I think there's still loads of stigma around being dyslexic, as it were, within the industry. And I think especially within a career such as data, it's actually a very good thing. It's about not looking at, everyone has weaknesses, right?
Yep.
But it's looking at what you can deliver and your strengths. And if your strengths outshine your weaknesses, people would want to have you. You need to recognize what your weaknesses are. First of all, recognizing that is a really big thing for people, and people people acknowledge that. But for instance, dyslexia within data works really well. Like I was talking to you guys before, I was saying how dyslexic people connect the dots is very sporadic. It's not linear. It's like bap, 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 bap. And it really helps you draw those connections within data, and it helps you express new ideas, new stories that not necessarily like other people might not come across. And it's really good having that kind of person within a team, because it's diversity. And like with my finance background, diversity is the best in terms of like, you need to diversify your assets, diversify your team. Like, it's really great.
That's such a brilliant way of tying it together, honestly. I think that's maybe where other industries need to pick up on it, is that diversity should be celebrated, because everyone's diverse perspective drives innovation forward. If you're still stuck in the same way that you've done things for years and years and years without encouraging that diversity, then you don't move forward, because everyone's stuck in the same way of doing things. That's brilliant. Really good to hear.
And it loops me back to something actually you'd said, Amanda, about when you were working within the finance banking area, and you noticed that area of the bias that's inherently ingrained within.
Yeah, I wasn't working in it, but our university project was to do with like credit applications, how like the historical data had been like kind of, can we say corrupted with like discriminatory data? And if you think about it, 50 years ago, there are certain things that people believed were true that is completely ridiculous now. And actually, I think it's fairly safe to say that some people still believe in it, but obviously over time that will change. And it did surprise me, because right now we're talking about it, right? We're saying like, no, have more diverse teams and things like that. But if our data is still that data, are we really progressing? Is anything really happening at all?
That's a fair point. I mean, do you, from your experience at Sainsbury's as well, what's your experience been like in terms of encouraging, say you've been very vocal about the data needs to change before we can encourage people to change that and move forward with it. Have you been able to vocalize that within your client? Is that encouraged?
That's a really interesting question, actually, because in my first year, I was actually working for a different department, and that was till transactions and customer feedback, which I guess has got data that's a little bit more. I guess I could see it a little bit more than I could, customer data than I can now. And yeah, I think the time that it actually hit me the most was during COVID, because I actually suffer from like an eating disorder, and no one's ever quite heard of this. It's called RFID. It's like avoidant restrictive food intake disorder, and it's quite particular. What that means is that, so people with eating disorders, especially when you're not allowed to buy so many of one thing or something like that, we have this thing called safe foods, and that can sometimes only be bought from certain places that we're only comfortable with, or certain foods that we're comfortable with, and on a bad day, even those foods are no good. And I remember like being faced with this, looking at this data of all these people buying off things and things. I don't know if you remember that picture of like this elderly gentleman stood by like empty shelves and things like that.
Oh God, that was horrible.
That's when it really came, like when I came face to face with it, and I was saying, look, we have this data. We know what people are buying. We know that what people want more. It's already here. We could just loop it back into the system and try and get, more of that particular thing, or at least have a system in place. But to be fair, I was a junior engineer at the time. People had already thought of this before I'd connected the dots. So I can't say that I'd brought it up or anything like that, but I could see that things were getting done within this kind of stuff.
Brilliant.
Which is amazing, yeah.
Sainsbury's have actually, quite recently, I saw that they've implemented quiet hours as well. So they dim the lights, no music in the mornings. I think it's Saturday I saw my local one at least, from 8 till 10, which I thought was incredible for people who are more neurodivergent and who do want a less sensory invasive environment.
I think, yeah, I spotted that a little while back as well. I was really confused when I walked into a store when that happened. I was a bit like, I feel very lost. Yeah.
Am I just broken into Sainsbury's? Yeah, but that's really great. And I think more businesses should, especially when they're public facing and customer facing, you've got to accommodate for people across the board now. So speak to me more about, I guess, how much customer facing data you're working with currently.
Well, I have to disclose I've only been here for like
1 month. That's true.
So like customer facing data, I think we're serving the sales team. So it's data that our customers are using that can help the sales team generate insights.
Yeah.
So that can be more valuable for them when they go into like meetings and so on. So I don't think we're facing too much customer facing data, as it were, because it's more like financial.
Yeah, completely understand. So you were going to say.
I was going to say, it's something that really comes through for both of you is you're so incredibly passionate about diversity and you've had your own lived experiences in different areas. I guess, why is it that diversity and inclusion is important to you? Why has it become such a prominent feature for your lives?
I think for me, so over the last couple of years, I've been going through a real like looking inwards kind of journey for myself, because before that, like if I drew out a timeline for myself, I could pick out all the bad things that's ever happened to me and the ways I've been discriminated, the ways I've been treated and things like that. And that's fair. That's part of my life. But on the flip side, I never looked at the little girl that went through all of that, like just suffered through all of that, but also quietly went along and decided, you know what, this isn't a safe place. I'm going to move to a different country altogether, away from my parents, going to find structure somewhere else, going to move again, going to move, you know what I mean? I'm going to find a place that's happy, that's for me. And that's become almost like my purpose, I suppose. I know for a fact that I'm maybe, unfortunately, in the next 10, 50 years, we're not going to wipe it out. We're not going to wipe out like discrimination and things like that. But I want to be able to offer people some hope to say that actually you can take control of it. You can turn over a new leaf. You can flip it around. You've become such a strong, resilient person over time. You just appreciate what your brain does for you. A 10-year-old doesn't know that, oh, I need to be strong at this point. A 40-year-old person doesn't know that I need to be strong at this point. But the fact that my brain just went, you know what, that's a bad memory. Let's just switch it off until you're 23. And then you can get therapy. That is just like who does that? And for me, the moment that I realized that, I just broke, and I was just like, I have been complaining for the last 20, 30 years of my life, thinking it's all been horrible, when in fact this little girl has just been sharpened and sharpened and growing stronger and stronger. And then I look at, like, I used to be a teacher for a little while, and I look at like some of the young kids that I used to teach, and I think, oh my god, these girls and boys are going to turn into like unimaginably incredible people. And someone or people just need to let them know that it's going to happen.
Yeah.
And just make that visible for them.
I think that there is enough being done at schools to encourage that that diversity of skill sets, encouraging people to say you've all got unique skill sets. And for example, data being an area that is becoming more and more inclusive and encouraging of different perspectives. In your experience as a teacher, did you ever see that? Did you personally encourage it?
Oh, I love this question. I think from my experience a few years back, I would say no, purely because I guess we're all learning, right?
Yeah.
We're still figuring it out, and you're always it's that loop. You're always gonna get more data, and you're gonna learn more. However, did you know that, like, so I was doing like research on like loneliness among 18 to 24-year-olds, and turns out the most recent, the earliest data that we have of that is from 2008. So before then, there was no loneliness between 18 to 24-year-olds, were there?
It's
No.
only 12 years ago.
Yeah,
13
exactly,
years.
That's
exactly.
mind-boggling.
So,
Sorry, loneliness? What?
so loneliness among 18 to 25-year-olds, like how often they felt lonely, the causes of loneliness among that particular age group.
Oh, okay.
It had only been, and I imagine maybe that came up because of like internet, phones,
Yeah.
and things like that. But no one really looked before that. People might have been feeling lonely, that kind of stuff. And another thing as well, and I think you might have touched on this, is that it's not just about educating the kids. I guess it's a little bit about educating the teachers as well, or just opening their minds a little bit, like I think to have like sustainability within like offering equality and diversity, you require this kind of, I would say, unique mindset where you're like, I'm going to grow no matter what. I'm going to learn something in any interaction.
Yeah.
I'm going to learn something, or both of us are going to learn something.
Yeah. I think that's a great mindset to like
Right?
go through any conversation. Like,
Makes a
you're
massive
both going to
difference.
change your opinions by like giving your opinion and the other person's opinion. You result at the end of the conversation both changed as a result.
Yeah.
And that's really great.
Yeah, and you've grown together almost, and that's what like unity.
Yeah.
That's what it's all about, right?
Yeah, exactly.
And encouraging different opinions, I think, like you said, and the listening to people's opinions, I
Yeah.
think has changed industries, hopefully continuing to do so dramatically. I think where opinions are encouraged and not shut down a lot of the time because you come from a different background, or you haven't got as much experience as this person, so your opinion's not valued. Encouraging people's opinions, no matter where they come from or how much experience they have, I think that speaks quite nicely to the fact that we can all grow a little bit from that.
Absolutely. And it also avoids this. I don't know if any of you guys have like experienced this, but like, how like some things just turn into chance, like it's okay not to be okay, or like it's you can be yourself at work, like at some point when you hear it all the time, you just think, oh, not this again. But
Yes.
when you have that kind of mindset, it makes sense. It's
a
like,
growth mindset.
Yeah.
it makes sense. So yeah, I just felt like that. That's what I learned like a few days ago. So I felt like, put that in there.
Wow, that's amazing.
How about you, Shijo, with looking at why diversity and inclusion is important to you?
I think why it's important to me is, I think like yourself, I had a period of time like 2 years ago that I really like went introspective, that where I started like thinking about it, and I was when I was working in Dyson, it was really strange. I was like, I don't see many people like myself within the company, and it was just my first time working in the workplace, and I was like, I feel comfortable like being myself, my authentic self, and feel accepted, and I started really thinking about diversity and inclusion from that point onwards, and I really want to encourage everyone to be themselves, like unadulteratedly themselves, and like and I think that's really good. I think once everyone is comfortable being themselves, then they can all achieve to the best that they can, and they can all succeed together. And I really want that to be like fun, as it were, like within a workplace when everyone's comfortable. So I really respect that in that kind of sense. Yeah.
I mean, actually, that's a really interesting point that you've brought fun into it. Do you think that diversity and inclusion has become the quote unquote buzzword and it's become such a serious topic, but really it is just, like you've said, encouraging everyone to be themselves, and that's a fun thing to bring
Yeah,
that
exactly.
together.
Absolutely, 100%.
Yeah.
Yeah, it has become almost a scary word now, hasn't
Yeah.
it? It's
Yeah.
almost like,
You
ooh,
need
you
that
can't.
quota.
Yeah,
you need
yeah,
that like diversity,
exactly.
inclusion. It's just
Even things like you can't use the word girl and you have to use like folks and stuff instead. I just think like it's much more fun than that. Like you look at someone and you go, wow, she's got a story behind her.
Exactly.
That's
And you want to know
beyond
more about that
the story.
person.
The
You're like, oh
individual.
wow, it's not a cookie
Exactly.
cutter
No,
person.
yeah.
They have flaws, they have strengths. You want to know more about that person.
Yeah.
And it makes you feel better as a result, know more about culture,
Right.
how they grew up, like you were saying, their individual story, what made them what they are, and maybe you can learn something from it.
Absolutely, you couldn't paint it with colors. It's like and I would actually like maybe stress more on like what she just said. I think once you start raise that level of like self-awareness, you just start seeing beauty in other people as well.
Exactly.
You just be like, oh my god, this is me. Oh my god, she's doing that. That's amazing. Or he's
Yeah.
doing this. Or like, why does he feel that way? Why is
Yeah.
this? It just like opens your mind to like
Yeah, supporting other people is incredible. It's really good. Like
Yeah.
feeling supported and supporting other people. I just love that feeling. Yeah.
So I guess a really good question to come in with now would be, what could we as an industry, the data and technology industry, do to facilitate and foster a more inclusive environment that makes people from various backgrounds feel like they want to be a part of it and feel like they can be a part of it?
to be a part of the data.
Data and tech.
itself?
Much like how you said, where, you were told, you don't get to go to Chicago.
Yeah, don't do that. Don't tell them they can't do it. Or maybe do. You end up with someone like this.
Yeah.
I think maybe I'd go with the same. I'd say like encourage people to find their own purpose first. If you want a more sustainable way,
Exactly.
like ask them to look inside, because a
Yeah.
lot of the time your actions kind of align with your thoughts.
Yeah.
And if your thoughts are something else, and when you come into work, you're like, oh, my work says we have to be diverse and things like that.
Yeah.
At the end of the day, no matter what you do, your actions are gonna work on that. So I guess encourage, and people love hearing about themselves. People like talking about themselves, even in their own head.
Be prepared to be surprised from an individual. You might not know what they have, and it's just incredible. Like
Yeah.
you can learn from everyone.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
And
Yeah.
in terms of, I guess, data and that tech industry, what do you think that people are maybe scared of, or they don't know about the industry that you can touch on, having come through the Kubrick training, are involved in data and technology, have said that it is for everyone to get involved in? It's an inclusive industry. What can you say that you've learned about data and tech that you didn't know before?
Can I start
Go,
with
go,
Yes.
this one? I think, and this is one thing that kind of irks me from time to time. So people always think like, if you want to work in data, if you want to work in software, you need to be this like genius. People have like normal conversations with me and they're like, how are you working at all? How did you used to be a teacher? And all of that. Because honestly, it's not like you have to be great at science and maths. It's funny. You just have to be yourself, because you bring something that we can't record in data itself right now. We don't have that much computer, right?
No
Your
KPI
brain,
metric.
exactly. Yeah, you bring something that's just unrecordable. So just be yourself and stop. I always think like fear comes from like ignorance, really. So
Yeah.
remove the ignorance, like start
Exactly.
learning things. And one thing I would say, stop saying you can't do something. Say you don't want to do something. It brings it more into your...
Yeah.
You don't want to do software? Fair enough. But don't say you can't do it, because the truth is you absolutely can if you want to.
Right.
I would add to that saying, like, one thing I learned is failing. Like, I can fail very well now, and I'm very proud to say that.
that. That's great.
I failed, like, you fail in so many different ways that you
Yeah.
learn everything from that failure.
Right.
Like, from writing code, for example, there are so many errors.
Oh my God.
It is the bane of my existence. But that you will never get something perfect,
Yeah.
right? Like, there's so many ways that frustrate me, and I failed. And being prepared for those failures, because they're the ones that really help you.
So I guess we've heard a bit about where you came from and especially what got you to this place, whether that's 2 years into your journey or 1 month into your journey. But what do you both see for your future? What are your ambitions?
On
the spot.
This is where I look at my phone, because I wrote this down.
Oh, I'm so excited.
like that bit of
Please,
prep.
please no.
Yep.
So I personally am like quite keen on like human computer interaction, that side of things. I'd like to kind of flip it back. You know, I forget. I think the Netflix show was like Social Dilemma. Have you guys seen it?
I've seen that. That's scary.
Right. I know. I also think the orchestra was a little bit dramatic. Still.
Yeah, but like the Facebook leaks that happened as well. There's like,
It is.
yeah.
But the part that really caught my attention is, you know, back in the day when the internet was actually a tool for human use, and now it's flipped where we've become the goods for the internet or the companies and things like that. I would like to kind of venture, maybe go forward a little bit and see if we can be a tool for good rather than using these people or using humans as goods kind of thing. I am quite stubborn, so I am trying to think of a way of not using historical data. So I would like to use just maybe your username, not even your date of birth, and see if I can build some kind of models and things like that way. It will take time. I don't know what it will lead me to, but my main like focuses would just be like human interaction, maybe mutual respect, and mental health has always been like a theme, so maybe that will be there as well. But I think it's more the fact that I'm just stubborn and I'm like, I will not use historical data because it's all corrupt and it's all bad. But yeah, that's what I see in my future.
Okay, that's good. Like, because I'm quite a bit newer to this career path. Right now, my main area of focus is developing my skills, getting that tech stack, and it's just working on projects, side hustles, or like projects like small Python projects or something with friends and stuff that like help out a lot to enable my learning. Maybe in terms of what industry I want to go into, I'm not too sure yet. So, and whatever I say, I might change in like a month's time or 2 months' time. Whatever the tools that I have, in a way, using that to help other people is what I want to go into.
And that's the beauty of it, is because you are so different in your journey. Manda, you've obviously really thought this through and had time because you've had the 2 years to really hone your skills, and you're still very new.
I just graduated. Come on.
No, Shijo, answer the question. What do you see for your future immediately?
The next 5 years,
the next
10 years,
I
15
don't
years.
know.
No, but it's brilliant to see that that's probably where you're going to get to. That's really,
sorry.
really...
This is my future. I love it. It's looking great.
Yeah. See, this is the brilliance of it, is that you can see such different perspectives, and you've already gained so much from listening to that experience.
Yeah.
We've gained so much from listening to both of your stories.
I may be a consultant the next time you guys come on the podcast.
Ooh.
Like, you might have inspired me down that route.
Yeah, exactly.
Wow.
Oh God, I'm gonna have to host this by myself.
We
Other
can
side of
interview
it.
each other. That's
Brilliant.
Brilliant.
So we are coming to the end of our time together, unfortunately, but I think I can speak for all of our audience that they're going to want to know about your journeys moving forward and keep in touch with you. So do you have a LinkedIn, a GitHub, a Slack, or anywhere that they can connect with you?
I do have LinkedIn. I do have GitHub. Don't look at it because there's no projects on there right now.
I have a very similar GitHub. It's just
Like,
notes.
it's just basically me downloading like other Python projects and being like, I could improve that, and then never improving it.
It's just like half done pieces of work. It's
Same,
just like, oh,
same.
shame.
It's like
Shame.
tutorials of Terraform.
Oh.
Definitely do have GitHub. And actually, if people do add me on there, maybe it will push me to do more stuff.
Inspire you a bit?
GitHub, LinkedIn. I think those two are the main ways to get a hold of me, or maybe contact one of you guys because I imagine I'll be staying in touch.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I'm definitely gonna be following you on LinkedIn.
Thank you.
Okay, I'm gonna plug as well my LinkedIn and my IG. Go on, hit my IG up.
Yeah, we'll
No,
have
not
all
my
of it.
code.
Love it.
Oh gosh.
Brilliant. Well, it has been absolutely fantastic having you on today. Before we let you go, is there any parting messages you'd like to leave with our audience?
Oh, this is tricky. Come on.
This is hard.
Yeah.
I made something up this morning.
Go on.
Wow, with
No
the color
pressure
coded,
now.
I see the color coded notes as
Yeah,
well on your
I just like
It
colour.
is
I just like
looking good.
colour,
It's
to be
awesome.
honest.
Well
Okay, guys,
documented.
play it down. No, I was just going to say, you know how they say, like, knowledge is power? And I was listening to an audiobook and I was thinking, actually, no, knowledge isn't really power. Knowledge is just beautiful. The application of knowledge is power. So, like, right now, what you guys are doing is, like, spreading awareness and things like that. That's beautiful. You're going to hopefully meet more people like us, and it's going to get better and better. And hopefully people will see how amazingly beautiful diversity is. But what we do with it, how you inspire other people to take action, that's powerful. And I think at the end goal, like when I think of it right now, I just think actually things are going to get so much better to how it was 5-10 years ago. And that little girl in me is just like, yeah, cool, So yeah, you can do this.
I think you just gave us our teaser for the intro to this.
Exactly.
Oh, 100%. There's nothing that's been said that's going to top that.
That's brilliant. That's pure gold. Right
That
there.
was. Drop the mic at that point, yeah.
Well, tough act to follow,
Yeah,
but
that
what
is a
about
very
you?
tough act to follow. I just want to like encourage people to be themselves, to see like if someone is like different and they're like a bit nervous about getting into the corporate world, say it's not very scary. It's just like be ready to ask for help. Like I would ask for help and question. If you have questions, there is no stupid questions. Like ask questions I ask questions all the time. If I'm the stupidest person in a room, I'm in the right room. If I if I
I like that.
so if I'm the smartest person in the room, I will get out. Like
My time here is done.
my time here is done. No, I'm good. But yeah, that's all I can say. Yeah.
Brilliant.
But it's been brilliant having you on today. Thank you so much for coming in and giving us your time, sharing your insights.
Thanks for having us.
This
Thank
has
you,
been
guys.
Diversifying Data, and we will see you next time.